In this episode, we are going to demonstrate the Profane Flame to be a manifestation of the Chaos Flame. In the first part, we are going to draw a connection between the cult of Vesta and the cult of the Profane Flame. In the second part, we are going to list some of the evidence connecting the Profane Flame with the Chaos one. In the third part, we are going to recognize a parallelism between Italit and the women creating the Profane Flame. In the fourth and final part, through a parallelism between Yarm and Gwyn, will be revealed how the Darksign was initially conceived. In episode 4.2 of the series, we saw how the Flame of Chaos in the bonfire, similarly to the Flame of Vesta, is never meant to go out. Also for the Profaned Flame, we can find at least two instances in which it is described as an inextinguishable flame, specifically in the descriptions of the Immolation Tinder and the Gargoyle Flame Hammer. Still in the same episode, we saw how the Firekeeper are inspired over the Virgin Vestals, who were maidens dressed in white robes, spending much time worshipping and maintaining the fire of the goddess Vesta. What in Dark Souls 3 is generally identified as the Profane Flame is a flame surrounded by enemies called Jailer Handmaids, who wear white robes and seems to worship the flame. If we put such a scene in comparison to the common representation of the Vestals, we find how the Jailer's Handmaids are an explicit reference to the Roman cult. Also, the vessel containing the Profane Flame recall the traditional shape of the one containing the Flame of Vesta. In the first episode of this series, we recognized the Chaos as the union of Izalit's Lord's soul and darkness. The term profane perfectly fit to describe the nature of Chaos, where something holy, as the soul of a lord, yet indeed profane by the union with something unholy, as the so feared darkness. To prove this further, the profane coal is said to contain the profane flame, and when we bring it to André, he says to perceive darkness into it. Pyromancies are generally the manifestation of chaos, and the fact that they can be originated from the profane flame is a further hint suggesting the identity between the chaotic and profane flames. In each Dark Souls game, there is a sword able to absorb HP, and in the first two, these are clearly related to chaos. In Dark Souls 1, the server is found in the swamp, and is the only sword in the whole game to change its description when it is infused with the Chaos Flame. When this sword hit or kill an enemy, it will absorb HP from its holder. We saw in episode 2 how the Lost Sinner carries the soul of Izalit, and as the witch tried to light the first flame. The sword of the Lost Sinner constantly absorbs HP, but in this case it takes them from the wielder. In Dark Souls 3, the weapon able to absorb HPs is Eleonora, a weapon strongly related with the Profane Flame. In the final episode of this series, we will discuss how each of these three weapons was part of the three scenes which allowed to light the Chaos Flame throughout the series. In the Profane Capital, we can find several references to Izalit and her daughters. Among the monstrosity of sin is found the weapon Eleonora, which discusses the triggering of the Profane Flame, so that it is common understanding for this creature to have been once the women who triggered the Profane Flame. This, of course, is a clear reference to those women creating the first Chaos Flame, who transform in deformed monstrosities as well. In the third episode of this series, we described the first scene to be the origin of Chaos, which transformed the witches. The fact that the transformation of the three women creating the Profane Flame is attributed to a scene as well is particularly symbolic. In episode 4.1, we discussed the Firekeepers to be potential oracles, so that the statement according which the three women creating the Profane Flame were relatives to an oracle is another way in which the women are related to chaos. Who this oracle was supposed to be, however, will be reserved for another video. The Fire Witch's armor name and the description suggest further the relation between Chaos Flame and the Profane one. These creatures corrupted by the Profane Flame are called Fire Witches, which is quite similar to the title of Flame Witches, attributed to those who created the Chaos Flame. Also, we find similarities with the terminologies used to describe the chaos burning the witches. As the Flame Witches were devoured by the flame, the Fire Witches were swallowed by it. Becoming a Lord of Cinder in Dark Souls signified to immolate one's body in the chaotic flames of a bonfire. Both Gwyn and Yorm performed such an action, and the game gives us plenty of material to draw a parallelism between the two. The Silver Knights were burned by the chaos flame generated by the sacrifice of Gwyn, becoming disembodied spirits called Black Knights. Similarly, the hearts of the Irithil Knights were burned by the Profane Flame when Yorm became Lord of Cinder, which transformed them in Fire Witches and spirits as well. These knights of the similar fate can also be seen as ghosts walking not far away from their corrupted bodies. The obvious parallelism between the Silver Knights and the Knights of Irithil is particularly straightforward, if not for a small detail. While the Black Knights are simply said to have been burned by the flame, the Knights of Irithil are specifically said to have their hearts burned by the Profane Flame. In the third episode of this series, we described the Darksign as a manifestation of chaos, and therefore of the Profane Flame. It is also widely accepted to locate the Darksign on the heart of its bearer. For this reason, we could recognize the flame swallowing the heart of the Irithilian Knights as a manifestation of chaos triggered by Yorm kindling the flame. Through the parallelism discussed above, we can imagine how similarly to Yorm immolating himself and burning the hearts of the Irithil's knights, Gwyn in his sacrifice were responsible for the chaos flame burning the hearts of the humans, and therefore creating the Darksign. As Aldia states, indeed, it was the Lord of Light, and not Isolate, who banished the dark and condemned man to a fleeting form. According to the description till here analyzed, it seems to be implied how the Profane Flame was created in two instances, once by the three women and once by Yorm. This might signify that the immolation of Yorm and the curse of the women might concede to the same ritual. As always, I want to thank all the Dark Souls wikis, which are a great source of information and images. Artists and internet users from which I got images and videos will be documented in the description. These videos are just a part of a broader project which is based on my book The Soulsborne Thesis, which you can read for free on WordPress. If you want, you can also back the physical version on Kickstarter. Both of the links are in the description. Thanks for watching. Bye!